Hi everyone, it's Tweedle here, and today we're here for our second episode of the Atlas of Lauyara, and today we're going to be speaking about the Crystal Waterfall. I've actually mentioned it a couple times in videos, and I know the Lone Tweedle and Aurelia have as well, so why not start with the Crystal Waterfall? I will also be discussing about the importance of the Crystal Waterfall, personally for me as the creator, because this isn't a place that just appeared as part of a fantasy world. It came from something a lot more internal than that. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, the Crystal Waterfall is one of the main sanctuary spaces within the Arboretum of Lauyara for our main characters, Aurelia and the Lone Tweedle. It's a place full of nature, so forest, animals, birds, insects, mammals, as well as not real ones, because I want a turtle dog and I want a squirrel fox. This fly is going to annoy me. But then also layered into those things, there are also these crystal formations that are scattered throughout the environment in different sizes and colours. Everything is alive within the waterfall area, and everything's moving, just in a very calm way. At the centre is the waterfall itself, constantly flowing through the entire space. And that water doesn't just stay there, it runs through the entire forest, it feeds everything, and it reaches every part of the Arboretum in some way. So in a way, this is one place that is connected to everything else, and I think that's really important, because that's the entire point. But the truth is, the Crystal Waterfall didn't actually start in Lauyara. It originally came from my own maladaptive daydreaming world. Within that world, I have a stable full of horses. Some belong to friends and family in that space, but most belong to me because I've rescued them and trained them to trust people again and to eventually be ridden. And a lot of that was inspired by the Saddle Club, and their stables, Pine Hollow, have their own land and super amazing trails that they can go and ride on or walk on wherever they really want to, with their friends and also their horses. And I've always loved that idea, like having land that stretches so far that you can actually travel through it and not just stay in one place. And so I create trails. And one of those trails, it was the Crystal Waterfall. It was the longest ride out of all of them. It's a 3-hour ride there and a 3-hour ride back. And it isn't like a quick stop, it's like an overnight journey. And because of that, it felt separate, remote, and extremely special. In that original version, the Crystal Waterfall was basically a hidden garden, full of biodiversity, plants, flowers, animals, and incredibly healthy nature wherever you looked. It was surrounded by a wall of trees, and there were only openings within the trees for the entrances or exits, and the waterfall itself. And the waterfall was that centerpiece, and it's stunning. The water would also change colour depending on the light, so it would turn pink, purple, blue, and it would almost look like it was made of crystals when the sun hit it just right. But it only happened at a specific time of the day, because it's positioned in the west, and basically you want the sun to be hitting it for these lights to show. So if you want to see it properly, you have to leave early enough to arrive at the right time, otherwise you're going to miss it completely. And that timing mattered. It helps make the place feel earned, not just visited, and just experienced. So when I created Lauyara, I didn't invent the Crystal Waterfall from nothing. It was carried over, because it already meant something to me. It already represented a kind of peace that I understood, a place that required effort to reach, a place that rewarded patience, a place that existed slightly outside of everything else. So in Lauyara, it became something a lot more structured, but the feeling has remained the same. So on paper, the Crystal Waterfall represents music, but I don't mean just music as in singing or performing. I mean music is something that exists within everything, something that flows through life itself, and something you don't always notice until you stop and actually listen. It also represents that creativity, inspiration, restoration, and wonder. But underneath all that, it's also just a place to reset, to step away from everything and come back to yourself. I know personally within my own faith, I've always found it easier to see God and his love through his creation first. Through nature, through quiet, through moments where everything feels still enough to actually notice it. I know I'm on a journey with people as well, and one day I'll be able to see and understand that same love through people too, but that is something I still have to walk into and stop avoiding. But because I can see how I tend to do it on my own, or in what I would call the right setting, I find it very easy to connect with God and worship. But outside of that, I can really struggle, because I let my walls go up. Walls I put there to protect myself from pain. But then they also end up blocking connection, not just with people, but sometimes even with God in a way he might be trying to reach me. And I think that tension is going to be a big part of my own personal journey. When actually writing this section, it made me realise something. I also got quite emotional while doing it. The Crystal Waterfall is basically a physical version of what my mind already does, especially within maladaptive daydreaming. It's like I took the internal world that I already experience and gave it somewhere to exist outside of me. A place that feels safe, a place that feels calm, and a place where everything I love can exist together without any conflict. And I think that's why it feels so important to me, because it's not really just my fantasy, it's a version of how I try to understand peace. It's also me trying to create something I don't always have access to in real life, a quiet place in nature where I can just exist no pressure, you know, no expectations, just a place of being. I may not have explained the full story yet with our characters, but there's also something extremely interesting in how this place exists within the story. Because the Crystal Waterfall isn't just something that you stumble across in Lauyara, it's not easy to reach, and no one is supposed to be able to know how to find it, or even gain access to it. But for some reason, the Arboretum chose to do that with Aurelia. The forest recognizes something within her and allows her into a place it never lets anyone else enter. And in her case, it becomes the same kind of thing. It is a place where she finds it easiest to connect, to reflect, and to understand something deeper than just herself. Not because she's isolated, but because she's in a space where she's least guarded. The forest gives her that space because it understands that she needs it to grow in a different way. Like it is seeing something in her pattern of being that mirrors exactly how she learns and responds to her accordingly. Which is really interesting because I wanted to make the forest itself this own entity with its own thoughts and wishes and wants. And it's like it changed a little bit for her just by allowing her into that space. If I strip all of the symbolism away, the Crystal Waterfall is still something very simple for me. It's actually a place I wish truly existed in real life for me. A quiet space within nature, somewhere with trees, water, animals, and no pressure from the outside world. And I've always imagined living somewhere like that, whether it be a cabin in the woods, or up on a mountain, or, you know, a farm out in the middle of nowhere in the countryside, or somewhere else that's more remote. Somewhere I can just exist without feeling constantly pulled in different directions. I just like the idea of animals being a part of that life as well, just a calm, natural kind of existence. And I think that's where a lot of the inspiration comes from. It's not really about escaping people, it's about having somewhere to return to, somewhere that feels steady, and somewhere that feels like home. And I feel emotional saying it now. No, stop it. The Crystal Waterfall also has kind of an unusual role in Lauyara. It feels almost protected. Like, the Arboretum itself treats it differently. Not in a religious way, but in a way that feels intentional. Like, it never really wanted to give up that space to anyone anyway. And the fact that it exists at all means something about the forest itself. It means even the Arboretum itself isn't just random. It changes, it learns, and it responds. And in that case of Aurelia, it's responded to something in Aurelia that allowed it to want to create this kind of space. What the specialty is, I guess we'll have to figure out when I finally start telling the story. So, the Crystal Waterfall isn't just a location in Lauyara. It's probably one of the closest things in the entire world to how I understand creativity, peace, and music all existing in one space. It's where things slow down, it's where things reset, and it's where, in a way, everything begins again. In the next Atlas entry, we'll move on to another part of the Arboretum and I'll start telling you how the rest of the world connects to this one as well. So yeah, I will see you guys soon. Have a lovely day.